The safari trail extends back 200 years. William Birchall, for whom so many African animals are named, was first. Leaving Cape Town in 1811, he returned 4 years later. Inspired by Birchall's book, Travels in the Interior of Southern Africa, William Cornwallis Harris followed a generation later. Next came Frederick Courtney Selous, trekking with his rifle for 18 years from the Transvaal to the Congo Basin. America went on safari in 1909 in the person of Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt's account of his year-long adventure in East Africa was eagerly read by a young boy in Oak Park, Illinois, Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway sought out Roosevelt's hunter, Philip Percival, for his first safari in the 1930s. And in North Carolina, another young man, Robert Ruark, read Hemingway and dreamed his own dreams of Africa. Nearly 20 years on, Ruark followed Hemingway, hiring P.H. Harry Selby. And so Harry Selby occupies a place on the direct line of the safari that stretches back 2 centuries. This is the town of Maun in Botswana, on the edge of the Okavango Delta. It is where Harry Selby, now in his early 80s, lives in semi-retirement after more than 50 years of professional hunting. Harry Selby played a pivotal role in the life of Benelli on Assignment host Joe Coogan. In 1973, Coogan made his way to Botswana to learn the trade of the professional hunter from the best, Selby. For over 3 decades now, they've both worked together and, more importantly, been friends.
The old saying is that you can never go home, but I can tell you that it only took me about 5 minutes of being back in Maun to feel like I had never left. I remember the first time I met Harry, phoned one of the senior hunters with Cardani and Selby by the name of Bill Ryan, and Bill said that I was in luck that Harry had just arrived and come around to the office the next morning, and I'd get a chance to meet him. He'd make the introduction.
And Bill Ryan, who was one of the Cardani and Selby hunters up there, said, "Oh, there's a young guy I met down in Mombasa." He said he's dying to become a hunter. There's no possibility of getting a license up here. So I told him to come up here and meet you, that you might be able to get him a license in Botswana. And I said, "God, Bill, that's all I need. I get letters every day of guys that want to become hunters. That's all I need."
Coogan is traveling to Selby's home to reunite after many years. Selby's assignment is to write the foreword for the upcoming book on Ruark by Alan Ritchie, Ruark Remembered, by the man who knew him best, and from which was crafted 2 articles for Sporting Classic magazine. Coogan spent an afternoon looking at the many photos of the old days that Harry has saved, which also include watching many rolls of 16mm movie film.
Yourself, Bob Peterson, and myself on Peterson's Ranch. You took me up there when I was in L.A.
Selby in East Africa was literally a household term if you had any knowledge of the bush or safari companies. Where he really became known worldwide, internationally, was with the publishing of Robert Ruark's book, The Horn of the Hunter. Harry had taken Bob Ruark and his wife Jenny on safari back in 1951, I believe. That was Ruark's first trip to Africa, and to this day, probably the most enjoyable account of one's first safari that you could find.
It's now time for Coogan and Selby to begin their own safari, their own journey to a place they know well. It's a full day's drive on dirt roads from Maun into the Okavango Delta and to the Kwai River Lodge. This is a camp that Selby established almost 40 years ago. For both hunters, traveling to Kwai is a safari of memories and a rediscovery of the timelessness of Africa.
Well, we're back in our old stomping grounds now.
Yeah.
Coogan and Selby know the area well.
Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
This is the kind of country that makes men like Joe Coogan and Harry Selby decide to become professional hunters. It's also the sort of landscape that has inspired writers since the beginning of time, including the likes of Robert Ruark.
It's been said that Ruark made Selby, and personally I believe nothing could be further from the truth. If you meet the man, there is no question that he is somebody special, somebody capable, somebody who has spent a lifetime in the bush, that enjoys each day that he spends in the bush as if it were the first or could be the last.
My parents, we were farmers. And in those days, the farms most of the farms were overrun by game. In fact, we lived on game. Very rarely would we ever use any other form of meat, mutton or beef or anything like that. We lived on game, and I shot my first Thompson gazelle at the age of 8. So I'd handled a rifle even before 8. The first time I ever shot an animal was at the age of 8.
Selby got his start in the safari business, not as a hunter, but as a vehicle mechanic for the legendary Philip Percival.
Phil absolutely hated motor cars and the internal combustion engine with a passion. Being very keen on hunting, Phil very quickly realized that I was a good candidate as a learner hunter and gave me every opportunity, not only to do the mechanics of the safari, but to get an opportunity to go out with the clients, first to collect plains game, and very quickly put me on to stuff that was a lot more dangerous than plains game. Around 1948, 49, Phil was only taking very few safaris and very short ones at that, so the old friend type of thing, which really wasn't doing me any good. And I had the good fortune of being able to get a job with Carr and Downey. They had two people arrived, two hunters arrived from America, who decided that they originally were booked with one hunter between the two of them, and they decided they'd like a hunter each. And I was offered the job of the other hunter on that trip. Tony Henley was taking the safari, and so the two of us went together, and it turned into a tremendous success. These guys each got one of the big 5, and at the end of the safari, Jack Block, who was managing director of Carr and Downey, said, "Would you like to join us?" And I said, "Yes, thank you very much." And that was really my second big break. After I joined Carr and Downey, I sort of worked my way up through the ranks until, in the pecking order, I basically was next to Donald and Sid, who were the owners of the company. In 1951, the writer Robert Ruark was coming on safari.
Robert Ruark was one of the most famous writers of the 1950s and 60s. He started as a newspaper man after graduating from college. Following service in the U.S. Navy during World War II, he became a syndicated columnist. He later authored such best-selling novels as Something of Value and Poor No More. He also wrote a long-running series of stories in Field and Stream based on his outdoor experiences with his grandfather, many of them collected in book form in The Old Man and the Boy. In 1951, Ruark made his first safari in East Africa with Selby. "I heard the hunter's horn earlier than most," wrote Robert Ruark. As a young boy reading the safari stories of Theodore Roosevelt and Ernest Hemingway, he dreamt of Africa. In 1951, his dream became reality. His PH was Harry Selby, whom Ruark wrote killed his first elephant before he was 15. Brought together by luck or fate, they safaried through Tanganyika.
And we started on our safari, which we drove across the Rift Valley through Maasai into the Serengeti Plain and started in the Acoma area.
Robert Ruark and Harry Selby's first safari began where most did in those days, in Nairobi's Norfolk Hotel. They drove for days in what Selby described as a short wheelbase Land Rover. Ruark called it a Jeep and named it Jessica. Their route took them through Loliondo, Tanganyika, and across the Serengeti Plain to camp, 18 miles from the village of Ikoma on the Grumeti River. Here they found lion, leopard, and buffalo. From there they traveled to Umtuwaumbu, the river of mosquitoes by Ngorongoro Crater, where they tried for rhino. South down the Cape to Cairo Highway brought them to Iringa. They spanned out west from here to hunt the beautiful country between the Great and Little Ruaha rivers, where kudu were earned but not collected, Selby said. Then it was back north to Lake Manyara and the hill camp of Kiteti Swamp for buffalo once again, fulfilling Selby's promise to Ruark that you will always hunt buff. After that came Arusha and Nairobi, and for Ruark, the inevitability of return.
We didn't do very well on kudu. And we didn't get a rhino. We saw a lot of rhino, but we didn't see one that was shootable. But he got lion, leopard, buffalo, oryx, and all the other stuff that you get there.
Back in the U.S., Ruark wrote Horn of the Hunter. This book is credited with giving rebirth to safari hunting and introducing Selby to the American public. In fact, Selby first gained wide prominence in Ruark's Reader's Digest article, My Most Unforgettable Character. It was in Horn of the Hunter, though, that Ruark presented his most indelible images of Selby. He wrote of him, "Selby runs up and over mountains for fun. He walks through marshes for fun. He builds his own bridges, makes his own roads. He still has the thrill of providing his own food and the food of his friends. He recognizes the inevitability of death as an adjunct to life."
I had no idea. All I was told by Khan Downey was that this man was a very widely read newspaper columnist, and a successful safari would do everybody a lot of good, you know. But I had, well, maybe not even Bob had the idea of a book at the time of it, but a book came out of it, I think, more or less just by the sort of the way he enjoyed the safari. You could actually read in the book how he enjoyed it. And possibly at the outset, maybe he had no idea of a book either. He adored Africa, and Africa just agreed with him. He would arrive in possibly not too good a health, kind of pasty in complexion, and within a week this guy was bronzed, he'd lost some weight, and he just enjoyed every minute from when he woke up in the morning till when he went to bed at night.
Both men's celebrity grew, but in time, Selby came to realize that he had to seek new hunting territory outside East Africa.
After several safaris, more safaris with Bob in East Africa, after that original, after the one that I took him on the Mau Mau thing, it became obvious that Kenya was eventually going to, the East African settler was going to lose out. And we all started looking for alternatives. And we had heard that there was a lot of game in an obscure British protectorate called Bechuanaland. And my company, Khan Downey, decided, well, you know, we may as well have a look at it, because we didn't know what the future for the company was either. And they said to me, would you like to move south and go and have a look? What I found surpassed my wildest dreams. There was an untouched backwater, which was like East Africa must have been 50 or 60 years prior to that. You could leave guns lying around, where in East Africa you have them all locked up. There was absolutely no feeding or pilfering. It was a new world again, setting the thing well back. And then to build up a safari business in such a primitive environment where there was no infrastructure was a great challenge, and very, very interesting to do, and great fun.
There are places and things that have never changed. Even as the 21st century grows older, parts of the African bush remain as they were when the first humans left their tracks where they walked. Now Joe Coogan has brought his old friend, the legendary professional hunter Harry Selby, back to his favorite safari area. And the sense of homecoming is undeniable.
I came here in 1963, which makes it something like 44, 45 years ago. There has been extremely, very little change in those 45 years from then to what we are sitting looking at here now in this area.
And that's a good thing.
Very, very good thing indeed.
We had Harry for a day, and wished he could have stayed longer, but with various things going on back at home, he could only give us a day. It was great fun because we were able to go out to an area not all that far from camp and have a real good dove shoot that Harry brought his Webley and Scott shotgun, a shotgun given to him by Bob Ruark back in the 50s. And I was pleased to show him Frankie's new Highlander side-by-side shotgun, which he liked and shot a few birds with.
Well, I like that.
The old Cape Turtle Dove.
Turtle dove. That's a good one.
Then we went on and hunted an impala that I had a license for, and that I was very pleased to be able to provide some fresh venison for Harry to take back to Mount.
The hunters sight a large herd of impala. Coogan and the tracker make the stalk alone, leaving Selby and Rand Safari's professional hunter Cecil Riggs to observe from a distance.
There's a nice ram over there.
Yeah, there.
That's good shit.
One shot, well done.
Okay, Joe, well done.
It's a good ram and will make fine eating.
Very nice. Woo! Nice start. Oh yeah. This is going to make some great eating.
Yeah, will do. Very good. Well, there's nothing better than a nice young impala. Jolly good.
And you can take the liver back. It should be in perfect shape.
Should be super.
I was very careful about that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think Harry's spirit of adventure and pioneering and foresight, if you will, contributed to the original setup of a system that would allow safari hunting.
I've been hunting with Harry, well, in the same company where Harry hunts for the last probably 25 years or something like that. I would say that Harry has been one of the most honest and capable and reliable hunters ever been in Africa without any comparison.
Harry stands head and shoulders taller than anybody else in Botswana particularly. There's nobody else in our industry in Botswana that has a better reputation and has been in the industry as long as Harry Selby.
Harry Selby is Harry Selby, his own man.
When I first started, and for many years, people came on safari for the experience, for the adventure, just to come to Africa to see all these new animals and to hunt them. The reason they came was for the experience and the adventure of a safari, and the trophies were the gilt on the gingerbread.
Robert Ruark always planned to write one more novel about Africa, entitled A Long View from a Tall Hill, but he did not live to complete the project. Harry Selby's life has been just such a view, back over a 200-year tradition of African hunting. If there is one man today who embodies the spirit of all hunters, professional and amateur, who have followed the continent's game trails, it is Selby. It's a spirit that lives on, and one it is hoped that will carry the safari far into the future.